All right, so much art history and never enough time to cover it all. So let's go run through the art museum. Okay, we're going to go to Belgium. Where is Belgium on this map? C. Yeah, that's an easy one. Where is Belgium on this map? C. All right. All right, and that's what Belgium looks like without all a bunch of letters on top of it. All right, let me introduce you to Rene Magritte. He was orphaned at the age of 14. His mother made several attempts to kill herself. At one point, her father locked her in a bedroom to keep her from harming herself, but she escaped and she committed suicide by drowning herself. Yes, and Magritte watched as they dragged her lifeless body out of the river, and her nightgown was wrapped over her head. And this is a common theme in his artwork. So you can see one of his artworks right there with the face obscured because her body was taken out of the river, her face was obscured. Now, Magritte says this is not why I do that, but lots of art historians make that connection. All right. On a lighter note, what is this? An apple, right. What is this? A dog. What is this? A hand, yes. What is this? A house, right. What is this? Pipe. Can anybody read French?
Not, not the pipe. This is not a pipe.
This is not a pipe. All right, now, but we're looking at a pipe, but it's not a pipe. What's the true statement here? Is it the picture that's true, or is it the words that are true? Why is it the words that are true?
Because art can be anything you want.
You're on the right track. But in real life, it's not a pipe because it's a painting of a pipe, and it's not even that. It's a projection of a photograph of a painting of a pipe. That's what we're looking at. All right, now I do want to talk about how he painted the pipe. It looks like an illustration. It doesn't really look like art, like fine art or high art. And that's kind of how he painted. He painted like an illustrator. And the words underneath feel like a flashcard or from a children's book, like a children's instructional book. It looks like a pipe, but the words say it's not a pipe. It's a painting of a pipe. It's a representation of a pipe. And representations are not the real thing. So where is the authority? Do you believe what you see or do you believe what you read? And you know what? You're going to have a hard time in this new AI world, right? Because I can't believe anything anymore. It's a perfect representation of a pipe, but the language is denying it. The language has authority as well. And the text is the sort that you would find in a children's book or an elementary class book. So that sort of text is instructive. It should be telling you the truth, but is it? So we have a tension between the representation of the pipe, the presentation of the pipe, and the rejection of the pipe. And also the word pipe is not a pipe. But what else could this be a picture of? Yeah, you're on the right track. Yeah, all right. So this gives you a sense, this gives you a sense of the size of the artwork. And he did more than one images of the treachery of images. In fact, there's one here in Houston. If you go to the Menil Museum, they might have theirs on display.
We're too busy looking at African
Well,
art.
but also they rotate their art collections. So sometimes it's on display and sometimes it's not. All right.
I would have looked at it and been like, what is that even?
Okay. All right. So let me introduce you to this guy right here, Ferdinand Saussure, and he is a linguist. And he challenged how things are named. So Aubrey was on the right track when I said if it's not a pie, what is it? She kept saying apple. All right. When you name something, the name and the actual object is arbitrary because it very well could have been called an apple. Right. It very well could have been called a tree or a bear or Kanye. He said that a thing and its name have a completely arbitrary relationship. And he said we don't really know things, we only access their shadow through language. And that words only have meaning in the context of the system. So Magritte says the old ways of thinking about language were still hiding in the way we thought and talked about images. So Magritte uses false premise of resemblances and shatters them from within. This visual dependence on language is exposed in the treachery of images, and that dependence is the treachery of images. Why does the sentence and the image have to go together? Maybe they are not connected. Maybe the sentence is talking about something else that's outside of the painting. What if the sentence was referring to something else not in the painting? It is the sentence that pulls the whole painting apart. The treachery is that images disguise themselves as objects without really being that object. All right, let's move on. We're going to take a look at this painting right here. This gives you a sense of the size of the artwork. And here we have a couple of teenagers in a high school hallway. All right. Yeah, I know, right? Everybody knows that couple, right? Yeah. All right. Have you ever had frustrated desires in a relationship? A relationship that wasn't meant to be, or feel isolated in the relationship that you were in? The painting of love we are not meant to see or know. The woman is in a red dress, the man is in a black suit. They are embraced, kissing through white sheets that separate them. The viewer is taken off guard by the inability to see what is happening. We are frustrated voyeurs. We don't know who these people are, and we don't know where they are in other than a room. By the way, so are they in a room with a gray wall back there, or is there not a gray wall and that's the sky that we're looking at? It does look like a sky, right? Yeah, right. And that's just it because everybody sees something different. Yeah. So the couple, they have the inability to see, to touch, to express themselves. They are prisoners of their own. The cloth distances them from each other despite their attraction for each other. And the idea of contactless love is not an alien to the modern viewer. For example, like dating apps, trying to get together through dating apps, or having a relationship that's entirely through text. But Magritte was saying that love can be both isolating and pleasurable. This is forbidden love. You are a love not meant to be seen or shared. It conveys a love that is binding but isolating. And it's the kind of love that is uncertain and fragile. People guard their emotions when they are in relationships. They don't always express fully how they feel or for fear of rejection or emotional pain. The couple is trying to show affection without leaving themselves vulnerable. In one interpretation, the painting shows a disconnection of what happens, or a disconnection that happens when you attempt to hide yourself. Another interpretation is that this is blind love. Well, this painting right here is part of a series of four paintings. So here's the four paintings. And in the upper right, we have the couple that is, it's almost like they're posing for a photograph, but then their faces are still obscured with the white cloth. Then in the lower left, the man has lost his body totally. Or it's like, oh, is it Harry Potter who has the cloak of invisibility and he's just popped his head out? All right, so he's wearing black. That's the color of death. She's wearing red, which is the color of lust and passion. And then the white that obscures them is the symbol for purity. And then the absence of white is that the purity is vanishing. And this is the double life of adultery. And at this time in Magritte's life, that he and his wife had both had affairs. Now, I was asking you about, is that a gray wall back there? Because take a look at the painting in the lower right. This is almost the same room, or the same architecture we have up here that we have down here. And then here it looks like open air. Take a look at this guy right here. Surrealism gives us the element of surprise. And what we want is always behind the thing that we see. This is an incredibly simple image, And the only thing that makes this image interesting is the apple. If the apple wasn't there, this would be a completely boring painting. The apple, what the apple is covering, is boring as well. It's just his face. It doesn't look like this guy would be any more interesting if the apple wasn't there. But because the apple is hiding it, we want to see what's behind the apple. We always want to see that which is hidden, and everything we see hides something else. So the conflict is between what is visible and hidden, and the tension between the visible that is hidden and the visible that is present. It creates a new state of being in a painting. And Magritte has made this in between state of visible and hidden. So the face is only partially hidden as well. So there's a conflict. So it creates an imbalance. Also, it can be interpreted as that the apple is the Christian symbol of knowledge and temptation. But instead of giving us information, it hides information. It doesn't bring knowledge, it conceals it. So our curiosity is aroused. We know what's behind the apple. We know it's boring. We don't really care, but we do. So by not revealing everything, he is creating a mystery. And the mystery leaves us unsatisfied. It's a fine line between revealing too much and not enough. All right, this photograph is from the Menil in Houston. They have a lot of Magritte paintings. We're going to take a look at the one there on the left. And here we have a bunch of men falling down like it's raining. You ever heard the song "It's Raining Men"?
Yes.
All right. So, yeah, all right. Apparently you have. All right, and they've got this other painting that's very similar to this one right here. All right, so what is the surrealism or the dreamlike state with this? Yeah, what about the clouds? Yeah, the clouds look like they're from like a storybook or something, right? Now, right, it's the lighting. That does look like Toy Story, yeah. But the clouds, if you look up in the sky, what time of day is it? Day. If you look at the street down below, what time of day is it? Night, yeah. Right. But even at dusk, like the sky wouldn't look like that. The sky would look, have all the beautiful colors of a sunset. All right, moving on. Let me introduce you to Salvador Dali. That is, all right, that's not a kitty. It's either an ocelot or some other kind of, wild exotic cat. Does this guy look like a weirdo to you? Yeah, it's because he is. All right, yeah. He looks odd, but he actually is odd. It's not entirely his fault. A lot of his oddness comes from his upbringing. So, Salvador's mother had her first child in 1901, and she named him Salvador. Then that child died at 22 months old. 9 months later, Salvador was born and given his dead brother's name. Then he was told by his parents that he was the literal reincarnation of his dead brother. And that's how he started life. Yeah, right. Yeah. All right. You've probably seen this painting before, and it's a tiny painting. It's about the size of a piece of paper, like a copy paper. The persistence of memory.
Did you show this at the beginning?
Say that again?
Did you show this at the beginning?
It's very possible. Well, this is one of those paintings that it's very. This is like the Mona Lisa of modern art. It's in that realm. Dali says, "My best ideas come from my dreams." Does this look like a dream to you?
Yeah.
Yes. Sigmund Freud says, "The dreams are the key to unlocking the unconscious mind." Dali used to use this trick that would make him hallucinate. So, yeah, in order to access his subconscious, Dali would make himself hallucinate. Not with drugs, but with paranoiac critical method. He would sit in a chair holding a large key, and then he had a ceramic plate upside down on the floor. When he fell asleep, the key would hit the plate and wake him up. In that nanosecond of waking, he would enter a state scientists called hypnagogia, and it's an in-between state where you are just beginning to dream but are conscious. And he used this system with the persistence of memory. So he painted the unreal world with such realism No matter how irrational it was still believable. And I think that's what makes Dali's paintings so popular. That it's that combination of unreal and real together. Those cliffs in the background look like real cliffs. The sky looks rather real, and these clocks, even though they're melting, they're painted with a reality that makes it look real, and it's fun to look at. The other thing I want to point out is this weird shape on the ground. It looks organic. It looks like it's like part of a body, but it's not. But what I see is like this looks a lot like a nose. But this right here looks a lot like a closed eye with eyelashes. It's a really weird thing to have. Like I've been looking at this painting for decades and I just can't really describe like how would you describe this shape to somebody over the phone? Yeah, right. Well, a blob. I also want you to notice ants over here. He uses a lot of ants in his art. The cliffs in the background look a lot like the cliffs that are by his home. And then there's this large shadow right here that people think is the shadow of a mountain that's close by his home. But I want to move on to this one right here, the soft construction with boiled beans. You had fun, right? Well, that's part of the fun of surrealism is the name. Dali painted this work just prior to the start of the Spanish Civil War, and Dali said that this painting predicts the violence to come. So Dali is implying that his subconscious is prophetic. He depicts the anxiety of the time. He says it's a prophecy of the violence, the horror, and the doom that the Spanish felt during General Franco's later rule. These are two grossly elongated and exaggerated figures that are struggling against each other, and they are locked in a tensely gruesome fight where neither seems to be the victor. The boiled bean in the title refers to the simple stew that was eaten by the poor in Spain during the oppression of General Franco. And this painting expresses Dali's political outrage. All right, we're going to take another look at another one here. And it looks like there's an egg. It's like an egg or a globe, like it's a globe in the shape of an egg. And there's a guy emerging from that egg. This is meant to be Dali. And where is he emerging from? What part of the world? Right. It's America, right? So he had moved to America and almost kind of like reborn himself into like a new celebrity. Were you guys alive when Michael Jackson was alive? All right. Well, Michael Jackson, he became famous for making music, but after a while, he stopped making music and he was just famous for being famous. And so that's kind of Salvador Dali, that he became famous for making art, but after a while, he was just famous for being famous. He was an odd person. Another thing I want to show you is the woman and the child in the lower right hand corner. Between the woman and the child, who's taller? The woman. So why does she have a shorter shadow? So it's the child who is becoming the birth of the new man. Also, with during as this is painted, this is in 1943, and so this is during World War II. The world is changing, and the war is changing Europe. Europe is becoming less important, and Dali realizes that America is going to be the big superpower moving forward. So this new man is being born out of America, and it's a change of geopolitical climate. The child represents the new man. And also, the new man is Dali. He was being reborn in America. The word geopoliticus was a made up word by Dali. All right, so I've taught you about naturalistic surrealism. And in art history, naturalism means realism. So the artworks that we've been looking at from De Chirico and Magritte and Dali, they've been very realistic. We can identify the man with the apple in front of his face. We can see the girl running down the street with the hoop, and we can see the melting clocks. That's all very realistic. Well, this is going to be what's called biomorphic or abstract surrealism. Our main artist for this type of surrealism is Jean Moreau, and this one is called Harlequin's Carnival. And it's what is his earliest surreal work, and it's set in a real simple space. You have this very simple room with a floor, a wall. There's a window in the wall, and there's a table in the lower right hand corner. And it's populated with a series of animate hybrid organisms. They kind of look like amoebas or these almost like childish kind of shaped figures. Most of these objects look like living organisms. Like I said, it looks like amoebas sometimes. And the figures are spread evenly over the canvas. And it's almost like a festive scene, like everybody's having a party. And my daughter watches a lot of Adventure Time, and it kind of reminds me of that. All right, so here are some of the things that we see in there. We have this guy that looks like a guitar. He's kind of shaped like a guitar, and he has this checkerboard on there, and that is a reference to Harlequin clowns. In the lower right hand corner, we have this cat like image, and it almost looks like it's dancing with this other creature over here in the black and white, and they're sharing this string or this thread between them. And we have a yellow and black fish on a table, and then we have this ladder that's supposed to be a reference to the Eiffel Tower, which stood for both elevation and evasion. We have some musical notes up on the wall. We have these snake like images. It's an imaginary world. And Miro says, I'm only interested in the anonymous art, the kind that springs from the collective unconscious. Now, his artwork gets a little bit more sophisticated, like this right here. And what this is, it's becoming less childlike, more abstract. All right. But do you remember when I was at the beginning, when I was talking about surrealism, how artists would kind of scribble on a piece of paper and then see what was in there? That's what he's doing now. He's using his subconscious mind to just kind of scribble brainlessly, and then he begins to use his conscious mind to see things that are in that scribble and then highlight them. So then there's this like almost it looks like a creature right here with there's his eye. Maybe it's wearing like a robber's mask with his mouth like this, and you can see his backside over here, and maybe some other things that you see in this image. But he starts making these paintings where these shapes become more and more abstract. And this is where we come to with biomorphic or abstract surrealism. All right, and this will finish us for surrealism. Are there any questions about surrealism?